Welcome to another episode of Price Targets with your host Bitcoin Jack. Welcome back, guys. It's Monday, and last week was on a low time frame, to say the least, quite brutal. We on Bitcoin, we I pretty much anticipated that as we were in the 105 to 106 region, which I outlined and identified as a region to hedge if you wanted to be on the cautious side, which I didn't. Um, and I really hope that we would reclaim the red level here and start our ascent. It's been um, it's been kind of um, you know textbook rejection there, and we talked about the level here in between the low from Tuesday, May 13th, towards the high of the 2nd of May. So it's swept that low, and it's back at the little trend line here, and the red line, which is acting as resistance. Um, if we're gonna see bullish continuation, everything now has been checked. We swept the liquidity. Um, it just took a week longer. So if we're gonna see a continuation, I'd probably shift my timing by a week because we delayed the low with another week, which gives us a little bit more time for the upside. We're going to dive into that in a little bit. Look at ETH, how to get into ETH. I think ETH is a good trade still. But first, let's talk about Backpack. Backpack is the exchange that is sponsoring this content. If you like this content, please subscribe and sign up with Backpack Exchange. Use my referral link. You're going to get 20% discount on your fees. And if you've been waiting to sign up and actually start trading because you couldn't because of jurisdictions not being enabled yet, season 2 is upcoming. I don't know exact timelines on this, but it's going to be a couple of weeks, I expect, and that means there will be a lot of new regions opening up for Backpack. So keep your eyes peeled for any announcements, and we're gonna be able to trade with a much larger user base in the very near future. So that's very exciting. Now back to Bitcoin. This level last week, I was very hopeful that it could be the bottom. It ended up sweeping all the liquidity down below here. Let me phrase it differently. If this wasn't the bottom, then we're probably in for a much steeper decline. To explain how I'm looking at this is a full impulse leg up. You could even argue there's a little extension. Move 1, consolidation, move 2, consolidation, move 3, consolidation, move 4, consolidation. Let's say this is, our last point of support. In a bullish trend, we should see a reaction of the level here, of this consolidation. It did, the deepest correction that it could do here, below the low here at just close to 100, and then it bounced and it's looking to reclaim the level here. So I need to assume this is bullish, because the upside is quite large. If it's downside, obviously I'm wrong, and that's gonna hurt more than I want to. But the risk reward here has been is really good. So don't want to see this low run again, because that means that we're gonna go to this and completely fill the expansion candle of May 8th, and we're probably gonna come back into probably sweep like 93, maybe even lower. Well, let's assume that's how I want to play this on the low time frames. What I don't necessarily like a lot is how this entire move didn't see any correction to the downside. That could be a very bullish thing if this starts to break upwards, because that means there's zero downside in the correction. Basically this becomes the corrective pattern, which is bleeding to the upside. And a lot of times when that happens, that's a very bullish thing. So, but you need to see the confirmation, right? So this is the resistance. If it can reclaim it and start to run, that's probably a good sign. But a lot of times in these consolidations, we'll need to kind of go and sweep the liquidity. So the nearest bit of liquidity is here at 104, which is has been my big level anyways, that I wanted to see hold for upside to 144. And I'm not really sure where to trade if it gets like acceptance below the level. There's quite a few levels here. You could retest 103, but I think we should see. I've said that last week as well. I think we should see strength to remain in this trade. And then we have ETH BTC, which is struggling here. This consolidation, really want to, really now want to see strength around this low from June 2nd into the low of May 11th. And sorry, I had a little bit of air to let out. So yeah, I think the play here is very simple. You have a low here, you have a low here, and it's kind of peaking below it. If this can close back into the range, it's probably going to trade back upwards to the high of May 10th. And that then hopefully sets up for a break of this trend line, and like this, and go to 272 and eventually higher. So if the market remains bullish, that's where the target is. And then ETHUSD, it's this was quite painful because I was pretty much set up heavily on leverage, and I had to reduce strongly into this sell-off. Obviously, a lot of my positioning came from lower, and then a lot of the positioning came from this area here and this area here. So it was not too bad in terms of just giving back some of the profit. But I'm long from 2449, and so that's around here, and I have another chunk at 2411. So essentially off below here, the retest of this level here, and then the other position is based on sweeping these lows around here into acceptance back into that kind of range. So if this is bullish, it needs to hold. If we want to look for low time frame entries, and that's it's always tough to do the low time frame entries. I'm not really a fan of it, but there's obviously the low here, and then if it comes back down here, this is kind of like an impulse move consolidation. There's this high, it swept the high. A lot of times it will come and sweep the low here. So there's a little bit of a gap here. If it comes down into the level, that would be an entry point, and we're definitely targeting 3200 still, and 3800 up here. So I don't know, like it's been a tough week for me. So I'll I'll just have to see how this works out. But I just took the trade, and after kind of losing out on this steep sell-off here with the Trump and Elon drama. Honestly, I don't think that fundamentally anything changes. So generally, these sell-offs are to be bid, and it's like China banning Bitcoin, but differently. And then Filecoin, it's been a mess, but this could become a consolidation. So essentially, the support sits at $1, and it swept the low here. So all liquidity has been taken. If this rejects of the level here and goes lower, I don't know, but for continuation upwards of the larger trend, there is there's no better situation than what it's done here, and then it should definitely be able to make new highs here. This all has been trash. So Ava is still struggling with the resistance at a 2600. Once it goes through that level, it should kind of follow what it did in December. So I still like it. There is this should be this should be the support. I don't want to see it go back there actually, because on the lower time frames, I really like to see just this become a consolidation into higher. And if that happens with Bitcoin roaring, this pretty much becomes acceptance into the range higher. So essentially, the resistance here, this is a giant block, and it's trying to get back into it. So if it does get back into it from this level, where the nicest way to look at it is the last point of an impulse on the way down here, which is then being reclaimed now. So this should motor up, and then it's going to target the 400s and eventually much higher towards like 500-600. MicroStrategy, don't know. I don't even know whether I like trading that. So ETH Sol, it's a clean breakout. There might be a little bit of a pullback, but this is a giant falling wedge, and I think we're getting that we're getting our confirmation here. So essentially, I want to see this kind of region hold, and then it's the first leg higher should be 5.18 or around 5ish on the ratio. A lot of times, but that's going to take time. I don't think that's going to happen like overnight. Is these wedges, they tend to trade back to their origin genesis level. So that's all the way up here or all the way up here, and there's this kind of consolidation block from November 2023 that if it's really bad for Solana, this could trade towards too. But first level is 5-ish. Then equities, they are looking mighty fine. Essentially, what I said last week and the weeks before is, there's no bearish case unless this really starts to trade below the level here and below the level here, and it's bouncing up. So no reason to believe that this isn't on its way higher. And for the sake of memes, I honestly think that this is going to trade to 6,900. And that means that Bitcoin is going to trade so much higher. Honestly, like 200K plus if this trades to 6,900. I want to make a note, and I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks, is that once we get into the August September timeframe, I do think we have problems on our hands. Um, do I want to use the R word? I don't know, but I think there's a good chance that things are gonna, you know, have kind of a credit event or liquidity event into August, September, and see the Fed pivot into more accommodating policy. It's like they will lower the rates. I expect they will, do one or two or three cuts. But the problem is when, for the last year, is when you bring down the short-term rates, the overnight rates, it's gonna cause the longer-term rates to rise because of inflation expectations going higher. So the only way that won't happen is if there is a genuine, expectation of a recession and we're gonna see jobs crash out, etc. Um, but if they lower the short-term rates, long-term rates will go higher, and that's going to cause a recession on its own, most likely. And there's a good chance they will have to kind of start buying or cap the long-term rate. So I don't know exactly how that's going to look like, but and I'm not 100% sure that's going to happen. But that's what I'm anticipating. Gold, it's really in a decision moment here for the continuation higher. I do think it's going to be a continuation higher. It's going to follow, the expectation of rate cuts and expectation of money printing, etc., before it's going to come crashing down. So, as I said, this is a five. This should be a five move up. It kind of got clamped at 34.40, and I think it's missing, that extra leg. This could be truncated here. But yeah, I think we really should start to worry about what's going to happen if gold can reach like 3,800 as a final move. And then someone's calling me. Whatever. For now, long-term rates are holding up pretty nicely, but they're on the brink of kind of crashing down, right? So this still gives me bad vibes. Dollar still ranging, no real kind of momentum anymore. It's probably going to be forming an order block and continuation back into the range. SPX 500, 6900, sorry. It's so easy to confuse them. We've reached 128, and it's, I don't know, like, oops. I'd say that if it comes back trading into 114, that sets up for, as long as Bitcoin plays nicely, that sets up for 144. So nothing really to comment on this. This is just a beautiful trend upwards, and no reason to believe it's gonna stop anytime soon. If it comes back down into the level here, probably targets the level up there, 144. I think that's yeah, BNB just consolidating. If the broader market is bullish, this is bullish structure. It's tapped all the levels to the downside. So this, I think this is setting up to trade to 800 and new all-time highs. I don't know. I don't even want to talk about this piece of shit. Like XRP, they're trying to buy Circle, and they're gonna sell a ton of XRP. This is probably why it's been in a downtrend. They need to find the billions and sell the billions into the market. So I guess when if that deals go through, it's probably going to trade upwards, because that means, the trade is, the deal's done, and that kind of overhang on the market is gone. I would expect when that happens that a lot of people will talk about how it's bearish because they need to sell a lot of XRP to actually have the liquidity to buy Circle. But when the deal goes through, that kind of means that already happened. So as much as I kind of hate the coin for everything it stands for, from a trading perspective, we're definitely in a region to be long on it. Maybe sweep below here and then reclaim it. Maybe this was it, and it's gonna start taking out the level here. And that's, in my opinion, a beautiful trade, because that means we're, very likely to at least come back into the highs here. And what you need to kind of figure out is that once they acquire Circle, that's that's very interesting in how they can position XRP as well, and how they could potentially enable the chain to work together with XRP, with USDC. I don't know. That would be kind of wild. So, and if the deal doesn't go through, they don't buy it, then all the selling has been, also for nothing, which means there is also upside. So I think there's a good trade to be had here. I'd be, somewhere between 1939 and 1645. If that happens, I'd be very optimistic for upside. Maybe let's see what happens when we draw. Look, perfect 618. So let's keep an eye on this one. Very interesting setup potentially forming. And other than that, I don't know, like, I'm almost thinking that the market, we really need to see the strength this week, otherwise we're pretty fucked. Let's kind of hope. I don't like to use the word hope, but that this is a little deckhead of this very much extreme Bitcoin dominance, and that will see the higher levels. I think that's it, man. I hope that was educative and you learned a few things. And let's get back together next week. Keep an eye on what Backpack is doing, and sign up on my ref link, because that helps a lot. And catch you guys next week. Cheers.